Dear colleagues, I greet you all from the National Teaching Council headquarters in Accra here. I am Lawrence Sapon, the Deputy Registrar in charge of operation at the National Teaching Council and a coordinator for the mentoring coaching program under Gallup. Before we start the actual discussion, I want to run you through what is happening at the national level as far as mentoring coaching is concerned. We have come out with the mentoring coaching framework that guides how mentoring and coaching should be done in all pre-tertiary level, whether training teachers, writing a book on mentoring coaching, or organizing a training of trainers meeting for mentors. There's a process that they should follow, and that's what we are going to discuss in a couple of minutes ahead of us. So we are looking at the aim of coaching and mentoring framework for Ghana, and a critical question that inform the mentoring coaching framework. We will also look at the legal framework of mentoring coaching in Ghana, for the rationale, the conceptual framework, the basic type of mentors and coaches. Then we'll look at what the mentoring coaching framework in Ghana rests on. Then we'll look at the basic concept for how to implement mentoring coaching framework. Then what models have we proposed as effective models for mentoring coaching in the country? The critical steps that we are taking to implement mentoring coaching. Then we conclude. So at the pre-tertiary level, that's from KG up to senior high school, our mentoring and coaching program focuses on how to improve teacher effectiveness to be operational in supporting learners to improve their learning outcome. And the only way that we can do this is to ensure that the teacher develop competencies that will allow that teacher to go through all the experiences in the school. Because if you don't experience the entire school environment, there's no way you can be effective in your teaching as a practicing teacher. So sometimes we do ask ourselves, what type of teacher do we want to have as a nation? If you look at the national teacher standards, the teacher that the nation Ghana wants is a teacher who is passionate, who is ready to act as agent of change. In other words, who will live a life worthy of emulation that can make him or her a role model to the learners. A teacher who is ready to learn at all times, to acquire knowledge on how learners develop and different ways of assessing learners. A teacher who is creative enough to modify his or her lessons to see the need of the learners. Then we ask the qualities of a good mentor. What should a good mentor be? Then we also ask, what type of a mentor do you want to see in our classrooms? Assuming you are going to be mentored to become a good circuit supervisor, to become a good head teacher, to become a good head of school, to become a good facilitator, to become a good DTST member, what kind of mentor do you want to work with? And as a country, what do we also want a good mentor to be? What do we want to see in our mentors? All these things will inform the kind of mentoring process that we should have. And based upon our needs and the needs analysis that have been done or conducted, and the studies that we have done on the environment, we believe that we need reflective practitioner model of mentoring and coaching. So our mentoring and coaching framework is designed around reflective practitioner model. Of course, we have to also look at what mentorship is, what coaching is, because sometimes people confuse the two. It's difficult for people to differentiate between mentoring, coaching, and guidance. So we look at the difference, and then the various mentorship models, that the apprenticeship model, the competency model, that the competence-based model, and then the reflective practitioner model, which I mentioned earlier. The policies that inform the design of the mentoring coaching framework are two. That the National Teachers Standard for Ghana is one of the policies that advocate for mentoring coaching in the country. And then the Pre-Tertiary Teacher Professional Development and Management Policy, popularly known as the PTPDM policy, is also one of the documents that advocates mentoring and coaching for Ghana. And interestingly enough, these two documents, that the mentoring and coaching framework, so the National Teacher Standards for Ghana and then the PTPDM policy, can all be found online. But little do we see our teachers or our practitioners accessing them. So they are online. If you Google the names, you get them. The mentoring and coaching for Ghana is designed to fill a vacuum in the teacher professional development in the country. We have noticed that the teacher professional development programs in our schools don't place much emphasis on professional learning. It doesn't provide support and development opportunities for teachers. So there's a gap there. And even the few institutions that try to organize mentoring and coaching program for teachers too, we see that their programs are uncoordinated and they are not regulated by any regulatory body. So people do different things at different levels. There's no consistency. Then there's also no proper guideline for mentoring and coaching activities for teachers in the country. And this is also a gap. Teachers in our schools are also not benefiting from any mentoring and coaching as a strategic avenue for promoting teacher professional development and effectiveness. In the school, we don't have any structured mentoring and coaching program for teachers. So every teacher in the school does what he or she thinks is right. It's only a few that allow themselves to be mentored by the experienced ones. So this framework, that is the mentoring coaching framework that has been designed for Ghana, provides direction for all stakeholders who are into mentoring and coaching programs for teachers. And it's also provide guidelines for service providers and any other individual who are interested in working within the teacher space, especially those who write materials on mentoring and coaching for teachers. While working on these materials or this training, we expect that we try to address this vacuum. That is the framework. The framework has different portions, which we call the vertical ones poles or pillars. So before a teacher can go through mentoring and coaching process effectively, there is a common understanding, a common belief that that teacher must first and foremost understand what goes into mentoring and coaching, or what goes into each type of mentoring and coaching model, and link that with the knowledge and understanding of the curriculum. That is, having understood the concept of mentoring and coaching and what goes into it. Any mentor who wants to mentor the teacher, or any teacher who wants to be mentored, should have in mind that the mentoring should gear towards helping that teacher to acquire knowledge and understanding of how the curriculum is implemented, to acquire knowledge and understanding of individual learner, the makeups of individual learner, the factors that underpins the learner's behavior, and the individual differences that exist among learners. Then, of course, there should also be a common understanding that the knowledge and understanding of the school has a great influence on the learner's learning. So the teacher needs to understand the dynamics in the school and see how he or she can work to ensure that that will not have adverse effect on the learner. Similarly, the fourth pillar talks about the knowledge and understanding of the community. The community where the school is placed can also adversely affect the learner's learning outcome. It can also improve the learner's learning outcome, depending upon how the teacher understands and makes use of the community. So basically, there are four pillars that mentoring coaching should hinge on. The first one is the knowledge and understanding of the curriculum. Second one is the knowledge and understanding of the learner. And a third one is the knowledge and understanding of the school. Do you know the school, your school mission, vision, core values, and others? Even if you are working in office, do you have the mission, the vision, and the core values of GES? The fourth pillar is about the knowledge and understanding of the community where the school is situated. So there's no way a teacher who wants to be effective should allow themselves to go through only one of the pillars. You must experience all these four pillars. Some teachers come to teach, and when they are done with their teaching, they leave and go. Some workers come to work, they sit on their table. When they are done with their work, they just go without talking to anybody, without going around to see how the environment looks. There's no connection. Some even don't know the framework that informs the operations of their agency. So, teachers must be supported to be able to be familiar with the curriculum that they are implementing. So a mentor and a coach, so a mentor or a coach can sit down with the mentee or the coachee and assist, provide support for that teacher to understand and appreciate the design and the issues in the curriculum that he or she is implementing and how to address these issues. Similarly, the teacher must be supported to understand the learners that he or she is handling, so that the child will not be surprised when the learners are exhibiting some kind of behavior that the child may think that they are uncalled for. In the same way, the schools where the teachers are working, the teachers must be supported to understand the kind of leadership style that are being applied in the school, and then whether the school is under mission or it's under, let's say, local assembly or private sector or whatever, and the conditions within this environment. In the same way, if the teacher violates the laws of the community or say anything against the community can chase him out, him or her out. And therefore, the teacher must be supported to understand the lifestyle of the community, learn how to live with them, and learn how they can be used, they can be supportive to the teaching and learning of the learner. When the teacher understands these four dynamics, that is where we can see that the teacher is allowing the whole school to pass through him or her. For that matter, the teacher is experiencing the whole, having this whole school experience. And if the teacher goes through the whole school experience under the 4 pillars, it will help the teacher to develop competencies. That will help the teacher to support the whole school development improvement. To support the whole school development. The school is developing. There's a desire, there's an edge to develop the school. So everybody comes to do something, and the teacher must also improve upon what is being done, what is being developed. And that can be done when the teacher has the competencies by allowing themselves to go through the 4 pillars of the mentoring coaching, and at the same time having understand of the various mentoring coaching models and how effective they are. So if you look at the mentoring and coaching for school improvement and effectiveness, when do we say that mentoring and coaching is for school improvement and effectiveness? And when do we say that mentoring and coaching is a whole school experience? So the left-hand side, we look at mentoring and coaching for school improvement. That's when it helps enhance the teacher effectiveness, and it is a means of improving school system to attain high learning attainment of learners. That for the school to be effective, we expect the mentoring and coaching program to make the teachers effective, to also improve learners' learning experience. And it should be able to also support individuals to give out their best without any extrinsic support. Coaching and mentoring can also be a whole school experience, because the coaching and mentoring of the teachers, if it focuses on how to enrich the whole school experience of the teacher, that's if it can help the teacher to go through all the 4 pillars, then we are saying that it is serving as a whole school experience. The teacher must go through the school experience with support in the classroom, is motivated in the school environment to help the teacher to be retained in the profession. But if the mentoring process is not helping the teacher to be maintained in the profession, then we can't see that it is helping the teacher to go through the whole school experience. The basic task of the coach or the mentor is to support the teacher to enrich his or her competency. Every mentor or coach provides supportive supervision that will help the teacher to develop the self in order to enhance his or her knowledge, get greater understanding and competencies to do the work that has been assigned to the teacher, which is prescribed in the National Teacher Standards. The 4 pillars, as I mentioned earlier, if you are mentoring the teacher, if you take the knowledge, understanding, and application of the curriculum, for instance, there are thematic areas that you have to support the teacher to understand each thematic area, that the subject, with the rationale behind the subject that the learner is learning. Some learners don't even value some of the subjects. Some teachers don't value some of the subjects, and yet the policy is saying that they should learn them. So the teacher must be mentored or coached to understand why that subject and the kind of curriculum knowledge that is in that curriculum which the learners must have. That teacher must be supported to understand the content of the curriculum and the kind of pedagogy that should be used to deliver the curriculum. If that is done in more quality environment, as expected, the teacher can be effective. How to deliver lessons, how to assess learners, and effective teaching. If the teacher does all these things, then it means that the curricular goal can be achieved. And there are indicators, the framework that can be used to check whether the teacher is meeting. So when you coach, or when I come to the school and you are coaching or mentoring the teacher in the curriculum, the idea is that you want to help the teacher to understand, to have maximum knowledge, and to be able to apply the knowledge that he or she has applied in the curriculum in everyday life. So I'll check. Are you helping the teacher to understand the subjects, why it is important to the learner, the content of the subjects, why is it important to the learner? Are you helping the teacher to understand to understand which kind of curriculum he or she is going to use? Sorry, pedagogy he or she is going to apply. Are you helping the teacher to understand how to prepare lessons, how to deliver lessons, how to assess learning, and how to be effective in teaching? If I don't see these indicators, it's very difficult for me to accept that the mentoring and coaching process on pillar 1 is being effective. In the same way, when you go to pillar 2, you want to mentor, let's say, the teacher or support the teacher to understand the school environment. Then I want to find out, are you helping the teacher to have the history, the vision, the mission of the school, to understand or to realize that the school is a community and it has components? Are you helping the teacher to also see the self as an individual or a professional who needs long life learning to periodically improve the self to be effective within the community? And that support can be obtained from the school where he or she is deployed. Are you helping the teacher to appreciate the impact of the PLC, the professional learning community, the school-based CPDs, and others? If a coach is mentoring the teacher on the knowledge, so if a mentor or coach is supporting the teacher on the knowledge of the school, I want to find out, how is the coach or the mentor helping the teacher to be collaborative, effective team player, who has the micro teaching skills, or who has the edge to allow themselves to be critically and objectively be critiqued by colleagues for better improvement. I want to see whether you're helping the teacher to develop the inter and interpersonal relationship. I want to see the mentor or the coach helping the teacher to develop positive attitude toward the school leaders, administrators, the SMCs, PTAs, and the boards. And I want to see how the coach or the mentor is also helping the teacher to have that knowledge of participation, so that that teacher can be engaged in action research and research to identify gaps in the school and provide solutions to them. That will help the learners to also improve their learning goals. So these are all indicators as school citizenship. But the teacher must see the self as part of the school, and for that matter, must conduct the self very well to become a role model. The mentoring and coaching process to help the teacher to also develop leadership qualities in his or her classroom within the school, and must be effective school leader, must be help supported so that the child will not use not use violent and harsh approach in the school environment. Pillar 3, as the knowledge and understanding of the learner and its implication for teaching. As a coach or as a mentor, you must make conscious effort to support the teacher to understand how human beings grow, that the human growth, development, and learning. Once they understand how the human being grow, the factor that can influence growth or development, and factor that can affect learning, and the learning environment or the environment within which the learner finds themselves in, it will help the child to understand the learner and understand why the learner behaves in a certain way, so that that teacher can be supported through the mentoring coaching to motivate the same learner. The teacher must also go through to understand that in the learning environment, learners can always transfer learning from one subject area or one experience to the other. So as a coach, you need to unfold these points, how they can be supportive to the teacher to be effective in the classroom. So if you take transfer of learning, you need to show how the teacher can support learners to transfer learners from one action area, one experience that within one scope to the other. The teacher must be supported to understand diversity that exists among learners, diverse learning styles, those who are multiple intelligent and others. The cultural, ethnic, religious, and gender and disability issues among learners which can influence their learning. The needs, the wants, and the best interests of children. The teachers must be supported to understand all these things during the mentoring coaching program. How the teacher can be supportive to the learners, can care, and can provide safety learning environment for the learners. The coach have to dive deep with the teachers in these areas. Management of student behavior in schools, classroom, or provision of child-friendly learning environments and discipline. The coach or the mentor must support the teacher to understand how learning behavior can be managed without using any approach that may be considered as a corporal punishment or that may be harsh to the learner. And the teacher must be supported during the coach and mentoring program to respect the right of the learners and to support the learners to be responsible learners, respectful learners, and learners who work in a safe environment. The teacher must be coached and mentored to be able to develop skills to support learners in their learning. But that teacher must also have the skills to be desirous in peer learning and providing peer support. So it's the duty of the coach to ensure that the teacher acquire all these competencies. And when you have gone through all these mentoring process under the knowledge and understanding of the learner, you have to use the indicator tool as a mentor to check whether you were on track. So the knowledge and understanding of the community, that's the fourth pillar, as I mentioned. You have to support the teacher to involve parents in the education of their wards. The teacher should be supported to understand how important it is in working with the community members and with parents. The teacher must be supported to also understand how the school and community can relate effectively and the impact of the community or the school on education of the learners, as well as the impact of this, how the school can also influence the life of the community. The teacher should be supported during the mentoring coaching to also understand or acquire knowledge in how teaching and working in rural communities or in faith-based communities look like. Because some teachers have stayed in one particular environment, they move to another environment where the lifestyle of the people are different, the conditions, the culture, everything within that setting is different from where they're coming from. So if we don't support them to accept the people in the community, their culture, the way they live their life. That's a culture, is a way people live their life. The food that they eat, the kind of clothing they wear. If the teacher frown themselves towards that, if the teacher decide to undermine the community, it will be uncomfortable for the teacher to live with them. Then the teacher may not want to stay in the community, or the community people may chase the teacher out. The teacher should be supported to develop skills in communal labor mobilization, or supporting the community, like mobilizing the community support for the school. So the coach and or the mentor will have to support the teacher in acquiring the skills, that the skills to understand and implement the curriculum, the skills to understand the learner characteristics and how these can affect the learner behavior or the learning attainment. And then the knowledge and understanding of the school, the ethos of the school, so that the teacher can work effectively in the school environment. The same way, the teacher must be supported to understand the cultural or the culture of the people, the belief system, the relationship between the school and the community, and how positive relationship between the school and community can be of beneficial to both the school and the community. But in doing all this, for the teacher to allow the self to be mentored, or for the coach to be able to mentor the teacher effectively, it's expected that the teacher and the coach, either the coachee and then the coach, or the mentor and then the mentee, must have common understanding of the coaching and mentoring process and the kind of models that exist. So we have to support the teacher to understand the mentoring and coaching process, the models, how reflective practitioner model works, through the use of reflective practice, the reflective logbook, and how the teacher can also conduct action research to resolve problems after reflecting or after implementing some behavioral models to support the learners to improve upon their learning. And the coach and the mentee should always end their coaching and mentoring session with indicators that will help them to know or to check whether they are on track with whatever they are doing. It's the indicators that will help the teacher to understand whether the coach is doing what's expected of him or her. In the same way, the same indicator that also help the coach or the mentor to also assess themselves whether he or she is also doing what is right. So before we start the coach and mentoring process, each of us have the expectation, and these expectations have been put in that indicator guide. So by the time we finish the process, we reflect and check whether what I was supposed to do as a mentor or a coach, I've done them. What I was supposed to do as mentee or coachee, I've done them. And then where we wanted to arrive at, we have arrived there, or there are some issues with explanations. In using the reflective practitioner model for mentorship, we link it with the clinical supervision model, which has three major phases. So before the mentoring or the coaching process, there should be opportunity for the coachee and the coach, or the mentee and the mentor, to agree on what they want to observe and discuss. Then there should be opportunity for them to come together to share what happened during the observation period. And there should be opportunity to reflect on the discussions that have taken place and the action points that should be taken. So you don't just come there and say, you're wrong, no, didn't do it. That's not what I'm expecting you to do. That is not the work of the coach or the coachee. You are helping me to develop some competencies. So you must understand the gaps or the needs of that teacher who has to be helped or supported. And we'll then look at how the teacher can be supported in more friendly manner. You give your comments to the teacher for the teacher to reflect, respond to them, and then put actions down for improvement. Then the teacher go back to the classroom to implement what was the resolution that came out as a result of the reflection. Yeah, so with the coaching for higher performance model, it's about the teacher knowing the self, knowing the gap, knowing the needs, knowing the challenges, and working to improve that. So the coaching process or the mentoring process here is support the teacher to become aware of the self. The teacher must understand him or herself in relation to how he or she works in the environment. The teacher must understand him or herself in relation to the professional philosophy, that the teaching philosophy that the teacher has. How is that aligned with the work that the teacher is doing? How is that aligned with the philosophy of the education system in the country? How does that teacher's philosophy is aligned with the vision and mission statement of the school? What kind of values is the teacher seeking to inculcate in the learners? And how are they aligned with the core values of the school or of the nation or of the community? The teacher must understand the self in terms of his or her strengths and weaknesses. And when this is done, it makes it easier to support the teacher. So the coach or the mentor has to help the teacher to understand the self in terms of these four bulleted areas I just mentioned. The teacher must also be supported to understand what he or she do and what the coach may also do during the coach and mentoring process. So the coaching process of mentoring support or guide the teacher to become clear about their established duties, what they do, and recognize the competence that they have in doing what they have been tasked to do. So as a CISO, that the school improvement support officer, as a head of a school, as a district teacher support team member, you have to support the teacher to understand the self in terms of what the teacher does in relation to the assigned duty. So that the teacher can, oh, these are my expectations. Am I living to that expectation, or there are some gaps? I'm expected to prepare to teach. Do I prepare well or not? Do I go to classroom lacking certain things which I didn't prepare for? Or do I go to classroom to deliver in a way that I don't want? Am I delivering effectively, or I still feel that there's more that I can do? Is the coach that will help the mentor or the coach that will help the teacher to do this self-assessment? Do I conduct assessment the way that favors every learner? Does every learner feel engaged or supported? Or does every learner feel that the assessment is relevant? Do I assess learners in the same way? Is there any equity in my assessment practices? Or is it based on equality? Do I supervise and care for the learners as expected? The coach, the mentor has to help the teacher to get answers to these questions. Am I useful to the school? Or if I tell the headmaster that I want to go for transfer now, the headmaster will be glad to release me. What is happening? Is the coach or the mentor that has to help the teacher to find out whether he or she is a trouble to the school or useful in the school. How do I develop myself professionally? Have I been engaged in professional development programs? Or ever since I came here, I have not done enough I have not even attended professional development program at all. The teacher needs to do those assessments. And the duty of the coach to support the teacher to reflect on these areas, to come up with some responses that will help the teacher to seek for support or to seek support from the coach or the mentor. Yes, how do you do it? How do I do it? In fact, we have been saying that the coaching for high performance model support teachers to move their attention from the knowledge about what they do and start reflecting on how they do what they do and how best they can do what they do. So now it's not about what I do. This is my role. I'm a teacher. This is what I have to do, and that's what I'm doing. No. The reflective practitioner model, which hinges on the high performance model, is saying that the teachers reflect on how they do what they do. The ways. Is it useful? Is it sufficient? Is it enough for everybody? Is it beneficial to all the learners? And even if it's so, is there any other ways that I as a teacher, can do it better so that the learners can be motivated or get excited in order to also improve their learning outcomes? Yes, you are not failing. We agree, you are not failing. But is there any way that you can support them to improve their performance, to do better than what they are doing now? So that is what the coaching for high performance will seek to find out. Don't think about what you've been tasked to do, but ask yourself, how are you doing what you've been tasked to do? And are there ways that you can improve upon that? And as I always say, when you go through the National Teacher Standards and the PTDM policy, there are some indicators there that will guide the coach and then the coachee, or the mentor and the mentee, to develop indicators to help them to check whether they are on track. These are the areas that we want to see how we can do them. Implementation and service providers who are already working the mentor coaching areas, they have to come out with manuals that are aligned with this framework. If you're a mentor, the CISO, you're a mentor, as you know. The head teacher, you're a mentor, or the headmaster, you're a mentor or a coach. We are training you to become effective mentors and effective coaches. And in doing that, we want to say that whatever mentoring or coaching program that you want the teachers to go through, you should ensure that it is linked with how it can help the teachers to understand the curriculum that they are implementing, how it can help the teachers to understand the learners that they are handling, how it can support the teacher to understand and acquire knowledge about the school environment and how they can influence the learners' learning, and how the same program must also link up with how the teachers can acquire knowledge of the community and how that knowledge can support them to assist learners to improve their learning. In that case, we say that all material that have already been developed which talks about mentoring as a theory or as a theoretical concept, should be realigned with the mentoring coaching framework, so that we can see that the document is showing how teachers should be supported to understand and implement a curriculum effectively. It has to be aligned with how the teachers can be supported to understand every learner they are handling. In the same way, it has to be reviewed to support teachers to understand the school environment as well as the community. And the National Teaching Council expects that any mentoring coaching framework that has been developed, or manuals, or sorry, any mentoring coaching manuals that have been developed, or programs that are going to be run in our schools should be sent to NTC for review to align it with the National Teacher Standards and the PTDM framework, and also point allocation. So when teachers go through the training program, they can get their points. That's to say that if sex supervisors who are going to be trained as CISOs, who are going to be trained as mentors and coaches, if the head teachers who are going to be trained as mentors and coaches, if the, the DTSTs, the District Education of the Regional Education Office team, who are going to be trained as mentors and coaches, will also go to the field to support teachers to equip their knowledge and skills in that area. Then they will get CPD points and certificates. NTC will continue to work with service providers and GES and the Gallup to also ensure that mentors are certified with a certificate after going through the course. In conclusion, we are saying that you, the CISOs, the head teachers, the headmasters, the DTSTs, the DMTs, the district master trainers, as well as the education office staff who are going to be trained as coaches and mentors, should have the common understanding that the whole idea of the mentor coaching framework that has been designed is to support teachers to develop positive attitude and better skills and competence as they go through the whole school experiences. And these skills that they are going to develop should help them to improve learners' learning. By so doing, we expect that the teachers will get understanding of how to enhance their knowledge, how to improve their work so they can deliver effectively. We expect that all the mentoring coaching activities that are taking place in our schools be linked with the National Teacher Standards and should take the 4 pillars of the mentoring coaching framework as critical areas that teachers should be mentored and coached on. In providing mentoring coaching support to teachers, mentors like you, the CISO, or like you, the head teacher or the headmaster, and even the DTSTs, the training officers, the district office staff, and the regional office staff, should always have in mind that anytime they are providing mentoring and coaching support, that support should hinge on the 4 pillars. Don't be biased. Don't look at only one side. Check the framework and ensure that teachers go through all of them so that there will be a balance in developing their competencies. Thank you very much, and I believe that you have enjoyed the presentation. We'll be going to the next slide, the next presentation, which will now take you through the actual mentoring and coaching process, the concept mentoring and coaching. Thank you very much for having time with me. I'm grateful.